Welcome, future CPAs. Let's dive straight into this explainer. We've designed this specifically to hack your brain and totally lock down activity-based costing for the MAS section of your LECPA. Look, if you want those 3 letters after your name, you need a solid 3-year retention strategy, not just some overnight cram session, right? So today, we're going to optimize exactly how you process, analyze, and actually remember this stuff.
Okay, here's our battle plan for today. We'll be hitting ABC in service industries, the flaws of standard ABC, the GAAP and behavior problem, enter time-driven ABC, and finally, a LECPA master bullet review.
All right, active recall time. Before we get into the weeds, let's test that working memory of yours. Does ABC only apply to overhead in a factory? Think about it for a second. Well, if you said yes, you are falling for a classic trap.
Let's move on to Section 1, ABC in service industries.
So the core difference in cost structures is really what makes this interesting. In manufacturing, you've got tons of direct materials and direct labor. But the absolutely crucial point here is that in banks, hospitals, or retail, whether we're talking about the Philippines setup or globally, almost everything is an indirect cost. Think about the massive cost of running an entire ATM network or processing 1,000 mortgages. Those are huge pools of indirect overhead. And because indirect costs make up the vast majority of their expenses, ABC becomes incredibly valuable for service firms. It helps them actually understand where their money is going.
And notice this contrast. Traditional manufacturing systems heavily focus on inventory valuation, basically just figuring out what's sitting on the balance sheet. But services? It's a totally different ballgame. They focus purely on strategic decisions. Since service firms don't exactly have physical inventory piled up in a warehouse, they use ABC to figure out the profitability of specific activities, like what does it actually cost to process customer transactions? Or, more importantly, which specific customer segments are actually making the money?
All right, Section 2, the flaws of standard ABC. Welcome to the boss fight of this explainer. This is where we understand exactly where standard ABC systems just hit a wall. Standard ABC sounds amazing in theory, right? But out in the real world, it has a massive, glaring problem: measurement costs. To lock this into your brain for the exams, use this mental hook. Interviews equal expensive. It takes a literally enormous amount of time and money for management to constantly interview staff to estimate how they're spending their time across different activities. Just imagine having to sit down with hundreds of workers every single quarter to figure out their exact minute-by-minute time allocations. It's exhausting, it's totally subjective, and honestly, it's highly expensive.
Let's quickly run through the procedural steps of standard ABC. To help that 3-year retention, just remember the acronym DACAP. Define activities, assign overhead, calculate rates, assign costs to objects, and finally prepare reports. The big takeaway here is that executing every single one of these phases requires a ton of resources. Every time a business process slightly changes, this whole multi-step system has to be manually recalibrated and updated.
Moving right along to Section 3, the GAAP and behavior problem.
Okay, listen up, because here is a classic LECPA exam trap. Lock this in. Standard ABC does absolutely not conform to GAAP for external reporting. But why? Well, because ABC often takes non-manufacturing costs, like selling and administrative expenses, and throws them into product costs if they are caused by the product. And on the flip side, it might actually exclude certain manufacturing costs, like unused capacity. Because of this totally non-conforming setup, companies are usually stuck maintaining 2 completely separate costing systems, one strictly for internal decision-making and another just to keep the external GAAP reporting happy.
But it doesn't stop with GAAP. Standard ABC also changes how performance is evaluated, which triggers massive behavioral resistance. Think about it. When you rely on interviewing employees to figure out where time goes, those employees are naturally terrified of reporting any idle time. Why? Because if they tell the boss they have 2 hours of downtime a day, it basically signals management to come in and reduce the workforce. So what do? They overstate their active time, which completely ruins your ABC data. You just can't fight human nature with a spreadsheet.
Which brings us to Section 4, enter time-driven ABC.
So here is your cheat code to solve all those ridiculously expensive measurement and behavioral flaws: time-driven ABC, or TDABC. This is such an elegant solution because it completely eliminates those subjective, fear-inducing employee interviews. Instead of constantly asking employees, hey, how do you spend your time? Management just uses a practical capacity percentage. For example, they might just mathematically assume employees are actively serving customers 80% of their available time to account for normal things like breaks and training. This totally bypasses the costly interview process and takes all the pressure off employees to hide their downtime.
Take a mental screenshot of this right now. This is the two-step formula to level up your cost assignment without ever having to interrogate a single worker. Step 1, calculate the cost per minute. You just divide total resource costs by the practical capacity in minutes. Super simple. Step 2, calculate the time-driven activity rate by multiplying that cost per minute by the estimated minutes it takes to actually perform one unit of the activity. It's totally objective, it's purely mathematical, and trust me, examiners absolutely love to test this logic in the MAS section.
What's really cool is that TDABC mathematically isolates used versus unused capacity. Because we're using an objective time estimate for our activities now, any time left over from our practical capacity is just clearly flagged as unused capacity. It's brilliant. It allows managers to see exactly how much idle time exists in the whole system, completely objectively, without forcing employees into that awkward corner where they have to self-report it.
And here is where it becomes a real superpower for management advisory services. By translating those unused capacity minutes into tangible, real-world numbers, like realizing you have exactly 5.05 employees worth of idle time, managers can make incredibly precise financial staffing decisions. You aren't just staring at abstract minutes anymore. You are looking at the exact headcount equivalent of your unused capacity. This means you can intelligently reassign staff or figure out if you can take on more volume without just guessing.
All right, let's bring it all home. Section 5, LACPA Master Bullet Review.
Here is your ultimate high-yield study guide. Seriously, use this for spaced repetition to guarantee that 3-year retention. Number 1, service industries highly benefit from ABC because of their massive indirect costs. 2, standard ABC is notoriously costly to maintain and update. 3, and absolutely lock this one in, ABC does not conform to GAAP external reporting. Remember the human element too. Standard ABC triggers behavioral resistance because people are terrified of reporting idle time. And what's your ultimate solution? Time-driven ABC. It relies on practical capacity instead of those expensive interviews, and it brilliantly isolates and financializes unused capacity so you can actually make good decisions.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this final analytical thought to chew on before your exam. If TDABC perfectly exposes unused capacity in a firm without doing any interviews, how would you, as a future CPA and a manager, actually use that data to optimize operations? How do you do that without eventually triggering that exact same behavioral resistance from your staff when you start moving them around? Essentially, how do you manage the math without breaking the team? Think about it. Keep studying smart, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.